Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to my cannabis classroom. I'm cannabis nurse Wendy. I'm a medical cannabis patient advocate, and I've been a cannabis activist and a cannabis nurse educator for the last 9 years. I don't practice medicine, so I don't give medical, legal, or dietary advice, but for the past 9 years, I have been studying cannabis law and cannabis medicines. But like I said, I don't practice medicine. And what I've done today is I had a bookseller send me all of my favorite books, and I'm hoping that people will buy them to continue learning after this class. So I was a member of a task force back in 2022. It was called the Dual Use of Cannabis Task Force. And what we were tasked with doing was evaluating what effect adult use legalization might have on our medical cannabis program and also just public health in general. And, searching. I don't think my remote did something. It's the projector. Okay. But anyway, we have a problem. Is it? So, okay. So anyway, Houston, we have a problem. There's a huge knowledge gap. We did a survey. This task force did a survey. I helped spearhead it, work with the Department of Health. So we did a survey on our medical cannabis patients and also providers, and we found out that 57% of the patients rely upon dispensary workers to get their medical information. So I've managed to educate about 400 healthcare professionals in Hawaii so far, and I'm hoping to do more, but you can help me. So by the end of this hour, you're going to know more than most doctors, nurses, pharmacists, any healthcare professionals, not just in Hawaii, but on the planet. So that's why my banner at my booth says, ask your healthcare professional if medical cannabis education is right for them. And I'm hoping this will be kind of a each one, teach one. Maybe you'll take what you learned today and teach somebody else. Just help me reach out. And I'm hoping that you take information to your healthcare providers on how they can get educated as well. I've got plenty of resources at the booth. So I'd like to say, Cannabis Classroom is in session. Please do silence your phones if you haven't already. There will be some time for Q&A, and if there's not, you can come to the booth. And please hold your questions until the end. So what I'm going to cover today is how your body works. I'm going to look at some of the chemicals that are in the plant and how they might be useful as medicine. And then we're going to also look at both CBD and THC and why they're called the power couple. So there's many, many medical uses for cannabis. We have 32,000 patients in the medical cannabis program in Hawaii, and there are hundreds of thousands of patients across the United States and across the world. So, but their estimates are that about 50 million people use cannabis, not just as a medicine, but for many different purposes. So we do have some validated, with science, medical uses. The first one is pain, and that's what most patients use it for. 85% of our 32,000 patients use it for managing pain of some sort. And it seems to be especially useful in treating neuropathic pain. It's also been used to treat multiple sclerosis, and there's a prescription drug in other countries, not the United States, and it's a 1-to-1 THC CBD mouth spray, and it seems to have pretty good results. It's also used to help enhance cancer and HIV therapies because it helps reduce some of the side effects, such as nausea and vomiting. And it's the only medicine that not only reduces the nausea and vomiting, but can stimulate the appetite. The drug that's used for that is a synthetic THC, and it's 100% THC. So you get all of the side effects from the THC without the other chemicals in the plant to buffer it. It's also used to reduce stress and anxiety, but we don't have a lot of science for that. Everything that's in purple, we have some science behind it. So as a sleep aid, not a lot of science, but that is one of the main uses people use it for. And then glaucoma, we do have science behind that. PTSD, we're still working on getting the science. And then for seizures and epilepsy, we do have a firm amount of science. And there is a prescription drug, and it is a purified CBD, but it also has a touch of THC and some other cannabinoids in it. Other uses, medically, potential medical uses. It can help reduce side effects of other medications and help reduce the amounts of drugs that are being taken also, such as opioids, benzodiazepines, and alcohol, which are the 3 drugs that people are overdosing on every day. It can also reduce the amount of tobacco and nicotine, and it has some neuroprotective properties. It's showing some promise in helping reduce nerve damage caused by chemotherapy drugs. Other possible medical uses that people are using it for, to treat autism and in dementia care. Almost every dementia care clinic in Northern California has incorporated cannabis into their protocols. And it's also being used to treat Parkinson's disease. And I recently discovered that there are some therapists who are using it for trauma work. Just like psychedelics is a guided journey, so therapist guided journey using cannabis. There's also, this is the field that is exciting me the most, the topicals, because not only is it good for skin care, for skin health, but it might be really useful in wound care. I mean, there's only a handful of studies, but showing that it can be used to treat wounds that are very hard to treat otherwise. And it's being used to treat acne, sunburn, and for infection control. There's only one study that I'm aware of, but it showed that some of the cannabinoids in cannabis could control MRSA, which is the antibiotic-resistant strain of bacteria. So, also, another way we've seen it being used far and wide, all across the world, for religious purposes. So the Rastafarians use it as a sacrament, and there's others who use it in ceremony. There's a recipe in the Bible for the anointing oil, and it contains a product called cannabisum, which is the fragrant cane. We think that that is cannabis. And in India, there's a real heavy association between Lord God Shiva, yoga, and cannabis. So, lots of other ways that people use it to enhance their life. It can enhance your senses of taste. So, it enhances the pleasures of eating or listening to music, or massage or sexual pleasure. For doing just body work, yoga, there are yoga studios that allow for cannabis yoga. And for acupuncture, when they have the moxibustion, when they burn the little bit of herb or whatever on the end, there's a historical records of cannabis being used for that. And everyone knows it's being used for social connection, because it's relaxing, it's fun, and we have so much stress-related illnesses in this world. So in my mind, this is a medical use. This is a therapeutic use, and then also stimulate creative energy, such as with Louis Armstrong. He smoked it every day, except for the 9 days he was in jail for it. But he used it as inspiration for making his music, and also just to relax and to deal with racism. Because remember, he traveled with a white band, so he was not allowed in the restaurants, he was not allowed in the hotels, and he had to deal with a lot. So this also empowers patients to participate in their own care. Patients in Hawaii are allowed to grow up to 10 plants for themselves and make their own medicines. And both of those are healing. Gardening, some physical therapy in there, and get down in the dirt. But making your own medicines can be also very therapeutic. And some people just juice the raw leaves, some people just chew on a bud to get, or cook gourmet meals. And hemp seed is a cannabis sativa. It has high nutritional value. So anyway, those are most of the uses that I can think of. I don't know if anyone can think of any others, but share them with me if you do. In the cannabis classroom, I don't have any quizzes, but you might win a prize if you can answer a question correctly. So who can tell me the name of the system that produces chemicals, it's the system in your body that produces chemicals that are like THC and CBD? Go ahead, take a guess. Not endocrine, but close.
Endocannabinoid?
Endocannabinoid system, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
How to say that?
Endocannabinoid. Yep, that's always going to be the answer. Endocannabinoid. So you can come up and get your prize coupon and collect your prize at my booth. I have, you can choose from your guest. But yeah, but I've got lots of great books. So what is the endocannabinoid system? And who has an endocannabinoid system? Well, pretty much everybody that has a spine, so all not spineless humans, but your pets also, dogs and cats. You've got amphibians, reptiles, birds, fish, anything with a spine. And it's a very old system. Oh, how did I get that? Oh, the dog. That's the drug sniffing dog. Yes. So, just like your body produces natural opiates, your body also produces natural cannabinoids. And because your body produces them, they're called endo something, so endocannabinoids. And these are neurotransmitters. And so the endocannabinoid system consists mostly of just the chemicals and neurotransmitters. Two main endocannabinoids that you should know. One is called 2-AG, or 2-arachidonoglycerol. So I like to just say 2-AG for short. The other one is called, oh, that's your body's CBD. And then anandamide, which is Sanskrit for bliss, or yogic bliss. And that's your body's THC. So your body's or CBD, the levels are higher during the day. So we think that that is related to alertness. And it is the most abundant one in the brain. It's 1,000 times more present than anandamide. So anandamide here is also called the bliss molecule. And we think that it's responsible for the runner's high. Oh, great, James. Oh, it's back. Okay, okay. The levels of anandamide are higher at night, and just like THC, can help induce deep sleep, which we think is the most healing phase of sleep. It's useful in reducing pain and inflammation. So both of these endocannabinoids are present in mother's breast milk. We think it's likely activating the newborn rooting and sucking reflexes, and also stimulating the appetite. And then you've probably seen blissed out babies after they've been nursing, and we think that that might be the anandamide talking here, but there is more to AG than anandamide in it. Now, both 2-AG and anandamide might be deficient in certain disease processes or overproduced in certain disease processes. So we see deficiencies in patients with autism, epilepsy, inflammatory bowel syndrome, Parkinson's, PTSD, and some cancers. And the same is true for the overproduction of endocannabinoids, we see an overproduction in endometrial cancer, in obesity, and with schizophrenia. So these neurotransmitters have to have some receptors. Unfortunately, they're called CB1 and CB2, so that makes it really easy. So the CB1s are found primarily in your nervous system, that's your spine, the brain and the spinal cord. But there are also in your peripheral nervous system. This is what THC binds to get you high. So CB1s, nervous system. But it's also found in your digestive system and connections with your vagus nerve. So we think that's like the food-mood connection there. So over there, we've got CB2 receptors, and those are found primarily in your immune system to help balance your immune system. Now, I won't go into how neurons work, but basically, in most other systems, one neuron fires, and it goes through a gap and connects with the next neuron in line, and the message just continues to get sent down the road. In this, it's a very unique system. It's called the retrograde neurosignaling system, where the first neuron fires when it hits the gap. That second neuron kind of turns around and says, what kind of endocannabinoids do I need to produce to affect a change in this signal? So it's producing the endocannabinoids where they're needed, when they're needed, and it sends it back to the receptors to work its magic. So it's responsible for homeostasis in pretty much every system of your body. And don't think of it as like an on-off switch. This is more like a dimmer switch. It's helping balance it one way or the other. So the main purpose of the endocannabinoid system is to monitor eating, forgetting, protecting, relaxing, and sleep. We have found that cannabis works best with education. So again, thank you for being here. And actually, now you know more than most healthcare professionals on the planet. And what you eat does matter. You can keep your endocannabinoid system healthy with or without cannabis, because your endocannabinoids are made from omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. Finding a good balance of those can help produce more endocannabinoids. Bad. Oh no, you're supposed to be positive. Please, stop doing that. I'm going to say please to the computer. No, go ahead. I can keep talking. Okay, all right. So there's two really good guides on keeping your endocannabinoid system healthy, and I can give you resources at my booth for finding both of those. But there are a lot of things that you can be doing, not just with your diet, but also activities that help stimulate your endocannabinoid system. Things such as acupuncture, yoga, social connection with So eating the right foods is important, because if you eat foods that are pro-inflammatory, your endocannabinoid system is getting depleted, because those endocannabinoids are trying to fight that inflammation. So, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food, still rings true to this day. How old this statement is, but they mean something. So, okay, now you know how your body works. So let's talk about some of the chemicals that are in the plant that have medicinal value. Everything is cannabis sativa. Even indica is cannabis sativa. So the genus is cannabis sativa. There's subspecies: cannabis sativa, indica, and ruderalis. So sativa and indica are valued for their medicines, whereas the ruderalis is not. The main distinction between these is the morphology, so the shape of the plant, more so than the chemicals that are in them. So when we're talking about cannabis sativa, we're talking about a plant that might grow up to be a tree that's 20 foot high, and it has thinner leaves, whereas the indicas are shorter, shrubbier plants that have fatter leaves. Both have medicinal value. The ruderalis is valued because it flowers more often, so you can get more crops a year. So they interbreed these. So most of what you can buy are hybrids of these. I don't think there's any true sativas or indicas left. Yeah. So anyway, but something to note. So there are two main types of cannabis sativa. So the drug type that's high resin, high THC, or higher than CBD. And then the low resin type, which is hemp. And I'll explain hemp just a little bit. So this is the Chinese symbol for hemp. It's two plants in a drying shed, they're hanging in a drying shed. Male, female plant. It's a plant with lots of duality to it. But industrial hemp is legal, and it's controlled by the Department of Agriculture, and it's defined as a plant that has 0.3% THC by dry weight. And this is an arbitrary number that somebody picked because it can't get you high. So, but all types of cannabis, this is something that you should know, just as a safety thing. All cannabis sativa helps clean up the soil when it's growing, so it sucks up the toxins out of the soil, including heavy metals. That's why they use hemp to help remediate the soils around Chernobyl. So you don't want that in your medicine. And you especially don't want a concentrated something as medicine if it's contaminated. So I would urge you to learn how to read the lab test results and the labels so that you know what you're looking for and you can avoid what you don't want. So, time for a quiz. Oh, that's right. I don't do quizzes, but who can answer this question? What's the main difference between cannabis sativa and cannabis indica?
You just said the size of the plant.
That's it. You got it. You win the prize. Okay. You come up and get your coupons, your prize coupons, and you can bring that to the booth, and I'll give you a prize. So this is where the medicines are made. These are called trichomes, and they're mostly these frosty resin glands that look kind of like mushrooms. So the medicines are produced in here, and in some of this, was mostly in the flowers, but in some of the small leaves as well. They're produced as hundreds and hundreds of these sticky phytochemicals. An unfertilized female plant can produce the best flowers. So one male plant can ruin your whole crop by pollinating it and turning it to seed. The term sinsemilla is a reference to that female, unfertilized female plant. It means no seed. So there's three main types of phytochemicals that are made by the cannabis plant. The first one are the cannabinoids, of which you're probably already familiar with at least two of them. There's 147, but the top two are CBD and THC. And then there's 200 essential oils in them. Those are called the terpenes. And then there's about 20 flavonoids, and they mostly contribute to color, but they do have some medicinal value as well. I'm not going to talk a lot about the terpenes, but just know they're a very important part of the plant. That this is what gives plants their distinct aromas and flavors. And this is found in every fruit, flower, herb, tree, plant. And many of these not only have therapeutic value, but we think that they're responsible for some of the side effects, such as one called myrcene. It's found in mangoes and I believe lemongrass, but it can be very sedating. We think that that's the one that's responsible for the side effect called couch lock. People get down on the couch and can't get out. So this is what the drug sniffing dogs are sniffing. You can't smell THC or CBD. Yeah. So instead of saying sativa, indica, when we're trying to make choices about what medicines we're using, we're looking at the chemicals that are in the plant, and not just the cannabinoids, but the terpenes. But this system is for helping first make choices based on THC and CBD ratios. So the first one are the THC dominant types. Type 2 are a more balanced version of THC and CBD, whereas the third one is more CBD dominant. And hemp, like. Oh, and that's a book, really great book. You just saw. I have one copy left. So anyway, now you know a bit about what chemicals are in the plant. So let me talk more about THC, CBD, their relationship, and what they're called the power couple. So you don't need to memorize this chart or answer any questions. Don't worry. But what I want to show you here is how the cannabinoids are formed. They're given birth from the mother molecule, which is called CBGA. And this is what creates THCA, the acid form, and CBDA. These are the raw forms of them. And then when you heat it or age it is when it turns into the THC and CBD. So this is the mother molecule, CBG. So let me tell you just a little bit about THCA, because it does have medicinal values. We're seeing it useful in helping with epilepsy treatment, and I believe autism. But it is not psychoactive. If you were to pick a leaf off of your plant and eat it, you shouldn't get high, because the acidic raw form isn't psychoactive. It's only when it's heated or aged that it converts into the psychoactive form. So if you were to ingest the psychoactive type, THC delta 9 is the most common one. When it hits your liver converts it into a much more potent form of THC also. So that's good to know when you're using edibles, because the dosing on edibles can vary a bit. So just knowing that it's probably going to get stronger. The basic guideline for dosing cannabis is start low and go slow. So start with the lowest dose possible and work up from there slowly until you get the effect that you want. But my point here is that all cannabinoids are related to this mother molecule, but they have different effects. So I want to just kind of look at what's hot, what's not. First about THC and then CBD. So what's hot about THCA? Well, it's not psychoactive and it is useful as a medicine. THC is psychoactive and is also useful as a medicine as far as treating pain and inflammation, as a muscle relaxant. It's being used to treat Alzheimer's patients. It might help reduce the plaques that are being formed. But we're seeing interesting results with diminishing the behaviors, the Alzheimer's behaviors. And it might also have a role in balancing your immune system. So what's not so hot about it is also that it is psychoactive, and we have some dosing challenges related to that. It can be limiting in usefulness as a drug because of that. Most patients don't really know how to use it, and they don't have healthcare professionals to help instruct them to use it. Can you wait till the end? Not everybody should be using it. There are patients who are actually allergic to it. It can cause problems in patients that have heart arrhythmias because it can cause tachycardia. So it can also have drug-drug interactions with medications and change the levels of the drugs. And that doesn't mean that you can't use it alongside other drugs. There are some that you probably shouldn't mix it with, but for the most part, it's safe to use alongside your other medications. But you do need to be aware that it can have some drug-drug interactions and deal with it talk to your healthcare professionals about how to balance that out. Long-term heavy use can have some serious side effects. Smoking can help contribute to gum disease. And also, what we're seeing, it's fairly rare. However, we are seeing a fair number of cases popping up with a cyclic vomiting called hyperemesis. And it's hard to treat, and really the only solution is for the person to stop using cannabis. So let's look at what's hot and what's not about CBD. So what's hot is that it's not intoxicating. It is psychoactive. It can help raise your mood. It helps keep your body's anandamide, that's your body's THC, your bliss molecule. You can keep it in your body longer to help improve the effects of anandamide. One study showed that a 1-to-1 ratio of THC-CBD helped. We think that CBD is buffering the psychoactivity of THC, so it helps bring down anxiety and paranoia. And it also might help block the conversion in the liver. Remember I told you delta-9, when it hits your liver, it becomes a more potent form? CBD probably also helps keep it from getting too potent. Oh, back up. I want to tell you what's not so hot. Actually, both THC and CBD can have what's called biphasic dosing. So you get one effect at a low dose, you get the opposite effect at a high dose, such as with anxiety. Like THC might be useful in helping reduce some anxiety, low level. You get too much of it, you might have a panic attack. So CBD can be sedating, and it can make some conditions worse. It can make intraocular pressure higher, and so it could make glaucoma worse. It can also have, a drop in blood pressure and make you pass out. And then the drug-drug interactions also. So you have to be careful with drugs that need tight dosing on them, like anticoagulants, blood thinners, or certain statins or anti-seizure medications. So there was a patent that was taken out in 2003 by the federal government, the Department of Health and Human Services, on 5 cannabinoids as neuroprotectants and antioxidants, and this includes THC and CBD. And what they found was it could limit the damaging effects from ischemic stroke or traumatic head injury. And this is in mice, this isn't in humans. And it might also be useful in treating Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and HIV dementias. You don't have to memorize this chart. All this is for is to show you that there is overlap in therapeutic usefulness of different cannabinoids. Let me show you THCV. So there's many variations of THC, many variations of CBD. But right over here, the THCV and CBD can both help reduce seizures and might be useful as a bone stimulant. This is why THC and CBD are better together. This is why they're called the power couple. And there's a theory that whole plant medicine is better than single synthetic substances or isolates. Cannabis extract has shown fewer side effects than the synthetic THC. Remember that prescription drug that's 100% THC? It doesn't have the CBD in it to help dampen down the anxiety. So patients prefer to use whole plant medicines to the 100% THC drug. There's less chance that you're going to have drug-drug interactions because when you use THC and CBD together, you can use lower doses of each. Or if you need higher doses of THC, some patients do, you might be able to use CBD to help increase your THC doses up to where you need them without the side effects. So, and Dr. Edward Ma agrees with that. He is the chief of comprehensive epilepsy program in Denver, Colorado. And he says the desire to isolate and treat with the pharmaceutical grade compounds from cannabis, especially CBD, might be inferior to using whole plant extracts. And cannabis clinicians have found that cannabis works best with educated users and providers. And I think I skipped something. That's okay. Come back. So this is one of my main resources. This is a book that was created by the co-founder of Project CBD and worked with Reader's Digest to create one of the easiest to read books. This is one of the books that I'm hoping that people will buy and learn more about cannabis, how to choose your products, what it might be good for, how to avoid side effects and other problems. These are my top 3 picks for medical books. This one is geared to, it's real easy to read. These are a lot more technical. These are handbooks for nurses and doctors. And this one is being used as a textbook in one nursing school and also in a college that offers a master's degree in cannabinoid sciences. So, cannabis classroom is dismissed. I think I'm supposed to read it now. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Paul.
Exactly on the, I really don't know, side effects for cardiac patients.
Yes. The side effects for cardiac patients?
Can you share any more on that?
Sure. It's been implicated in 2 cases of myocardial infarction. It was soon after, it was 2 younger people actually who smoked and soon after experienced heart attacks, although they probably also used other drugs. And so we can't say that cannabis caused it, but we have to be super careful, you know. We can't take risks, especially with patients who have heart arrhythmias, because we do know that cannabis can spike up your heart rate, and it's part of the panic attack, you know, part of THC. So, you know, we need to just warn patients that's a potential hazard. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Just recently in the news, I think probably just yesterday, there was a case where this girl got off from killing her boyfriend.
Oh, that
And they
case.
called it marijuana psychosis.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, they said that, and we all know that
It's terrible.
that was the most horrible thing they could have done for cannabis.
This is a case, it was like Thousand Oaks, California, a couple of years ago. Male-female partners smoked cannabis.
We don't even know if they smoked it or if it was an edible, which is very interesting because, as we know,
Well, there was residue in a bong or something. So the story is that they shared the bong, that she went crazy, stabbed him to death with a knife, and stabbed herself. And so she's getting off on, you know, like reason of insanity or whatever. Not, you know, just, it was. Yeah, we know it doesn't do that. Cannabis does not induce psychosis. That's really old. That's old reefer madness stuff that's just been perpetuated for years, and it just makes it so hard for us to, you know, we've had for years and years fighting people going, oh yeah, medicine, you know, that everyone just wants to get high and they're using that as a ruse. And it's just not true. We finally got the federal government to make a statement that said there is accepted medical use for cannabis in 4 different conditions. And that's why the Department of Health and Human Services has sent a letter to the DEA asking them to take it out of the Schedule I drug classification, which is for drugs that have no medicinal value, and put it in a Schedule III drug category. And they said, what we discovered is that it's a lot less harmful than we once thought, and that it is not a super risk to public health. Let's see, what did they say? Here it is. The vast majority of users do so in a way that does not lead to dangerous outcomes for themselves or others. That is a low risk to public health, that there's less potential for misuse than other drugs, including alcohol, and that there's accepted medical use for all of these. This is data that came from 30,000 healthcare professionals and 6 million patients. Yes.
If they do decriminalize it,
Yeah.
we'll get more research.
I'm hoping for more research. Yep. Anyway, thank you so much for coming. Please come to the booth and check out the materials that we brought through.